I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing while we think of those who've gone before us. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lewis? Here. Trustee Pine?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
Here.
Trustee O'Malley?
Here.
And the mayor.
I am here. I am present. I think I'm present. All right. At this point, I'm looking for a motion to open a public hearing for local law number 2 of 2018. This is specifically a local law to enact parking restrictions on certain sections of Elm Street
Motion.
in the village of Hoosick Falls.
Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Ben. Thank you. Okay, at this point, this is a public hearing regarding this local law. Do you have that local law handy? Sure. This is specifically would put parking in restrictions in the following locations: Elm Street, north side, from First Street to Railroad Avenue, and the time limit would be 2-hour parking from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the same thing, Elm Street on the south side, same thing from First Street to Railroad Avenue, 2 hours parking 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This came from a request of a business owner over there, and we looked into it. Anyone from the public can speak in regards to this. This is how local laws are set. We have public hearings so that people can hear it and make any statements on it, or ask any questions or have any comments about it. So at this point, would anyone like to speak regarding this local law? Okay, that's fine. It will remain open as required by local law for about 30 minutes, or around 6:35. I will look for a motion to close that. We will continue on with our meeting. But again, if you have anything you want to say regarding that local law, please speak up. The second public hearing on the agenda will wait until after the first one is closed regarding local law number 3. So we're going to move on to the correspondence and announcements portion. The first one I have here is a request from AC3, and I received a letter a couple days ago. You guys can take a look at it. There's just a nice... You have a copy.
We do have a copy.
Oh, fantastic. You have to say this. Just for the record, dear Mayor Allen and Board, for nearly 20 years, AC3 has provided the opportunity and resources to community members to come together and celebrate, communicate, create, and build a better place to live. This is accomplished through a variety of rural revival initiatives, including arts, wellness, youth and community programs, small business incubation, community events and outreach, and partnerships with community organizations. We believe that community is about making and sustaining connections. AC3 is working to provide experiences, programs, events, places, and time for this to happen in Hoosick. The annual funding of $3,000 that AC3 receives from the village helps supports us in these efforts, and for that we thank you. So this is kind of a letter with the, I think, the request / thank you for the standard year annual giving that we do for AC3. When we did this last year, we did it in June. There's a couple of seats right here, guys. And Bob, can you set up a couple more chairs over there? There's some space over there. Thank you. These are funds that are budgeted every year and are budgeted for next year. Do you guys have any comments that you want to share in regards to it?
Well, we had a couple of months ago requested the youth center. I know we had discussed splitting this between both. Because the youth center had also requested some assistance, I think it would only be fair to do so. Since they're two organizations, that way they're both benefiting, but I know we don't have a lot of the budget, so I'd prefer to just split and not, that way it's fair to both.
Denise, what do we have in the budget?
3,000.
3,000.
I think splitting it would be good.
I mean, it'd be good, but they're, in my eyes, they're keeping a building open that otherwise would be shuttered, we'd have an eyesore in our village, I think that we should remain the funding, we're funding them at now,
For which one?
for HAYC three.
Because they're both keeping a building open.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
So we should fund them at the same rate, but not
Yeah.
not take away one to give to another.
So the question is, do we have funds to give to Hasty Three, or to give to the youth center,
Yeah.
if we continue giving our normal 3,000 to Hasty Three?
I don't know, I have to look at the budget and see if there's any place you can take it from.
And the formal request we got, did we receive a formal request from the youth center, and if so, what was the request for?
Have not received it.
Right.
They
So-
did months ago give a request, I don't recall. I think they were just asking if we could help.
I think it was an informal request, but it
Right.
wasn't a
Yeah.
formal
Right.
request.
Alright, I will, look for communications from them. And, have some follow-up discussions with Denise regarding, if we were to give additionally to, the youth center, and not change the 3,000 we give to Hasty Three, how that would work, where it would come from. The idea of jumping right into a contingency in the very beginning of our fiscal year is not something I'm very excited about the prospect, but we can, are you okay with making that decision next meeting in June?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Alright.
I just want to make sure we give equally to both though.
Yeah, it's at the table for next week. Do we have to read a motion to table that?
We didn't,
just so
we didn't make a motion, right?
Yeah.
No motions made.
Alright. I'm just making myself notes here. Okay, we have a request from Greg Fox, who's the president. Greg, what's the name? Where are you? Greg? What's the name of the club?
We are currently, we are on the verge of, we are the Hoosick area radio, the Hoosick area radio, amateur, the Hoosick amateur radio club, I'm sorry. We're just changing our name, so,
So, who's the amateur radio club?
yes, yep.
And Greg is here with Vice President Tim, Treasurer Ted, and Secretary Dave. Is that everybody?
Yep.
All right. Do you guys want to explain a little bit about what you're hoping to do? And I know we've talked to our water guys and we were asking questions, technical questions, and others. But I want to hear from you guys first, please.
Well, we are a local amateur radio club that, what we do is we're there for emergency purposes. We're there for communication purposes, and we have, probably about 14 members in the club that are from all over, Buskirk, Cambridge, Bennington, and what we're asking, is we have a repeater in which the repeater is kind of like if I have a radio and my radio talks to the repeater, and then the repeater almost amplifies out to anyone that can hear us in distance. It's currently at the North Hoosick Fire Department, and which is an okay location, but we're not getting out to fully into town. We would like to move it to the water tower and run to Leader Street. You wanna maybe?
Yeah, amateur radio has been a very important part of our national security, and in times of emergency, we've always come through. In fact, there's operators today that are still operating out of Puerto Rico because power isn't restored, and there isn't no viable communications down there as far as the back country areas. So the amateur radio organizations that are down there are doing this gratis, with no fees or anything. It's all free, and they volunteer their time and their equipment to do that. Well, we do the same thing locally. We're a group of guys that have been doing this sport for quite a few years. I've been in it for 30 years myself. And it's not just emergency services. We do a lot of outreach things to get kids involved when we can. We have our annual field day at the last weekend in June, where we actually go out and set up in the field. We put up homemade antennas. We set up with generators or solar systems or even wind power. And we operate completely off the grid and gain points that way. It's like a contest. And at the end of the day, we add the points up. And there's really no winners, but you get a certificate for it. And it's a lot of fun. It's just a bunch of guys doing what they like to do and having a good time. The position we're in now is we have very weak communications in the area because of the hills. If you go over the ridge over into West Hoosick, it's pretty hard on a simplex radio, which is just radio to radio, to hear anybody or to talk to them. That's why we put the repeater in. It's a simultaneous machine that takes an input signal and sends an output signal at the same time. You don't even know what's happening, and it just increases the range greatly. But we're limited by the space and by the height that we have. We'd like to move it to Rensselaer Street because that would widen our area and broaden our coverage and help us in emergencies. We're more than willing to step in to assist the fire department, the rescue squad, the police department, anybody. We do have direct communications to Rensselaer County. A lot of us are members of the Rensselaer County Amateur Radio Emergency Services Club. We in contact with them all the time. So it's not just us up here alone, it's the county too. But as far as them controlling us or us reporting to them, no. We're an ARRL, American Amateur Radio Relay League, certified and validated club, and we operate by their rules and by the National Traffic Board rules for passing traffic and messages. So basically, that's what we're asking, is we'd like to put the repeater on top of the water tower to get some, to gain some coverage and gain some area.
I've also talked to Hoosick County with this, and we have a gentleman who's there, like Ted said, that we talked directly. His name is Tom, and he, you know, as long as we're not interfering, and I checked with our repeater, our guy who put the repeater up at the firehouse. It's been at the firehouse now since last June, and then it's been in service since the previous November. It was at the Cornerstone Church. There is no interference. We are coordinated with Upper New York. I have actually a certificate here that says we are actually a certificate saying that we are notice of coordination, and it's a certificate that says we're not interfering with anybody. And like the Rensselaer County, you know, they know we're here. They really don't have a direct say, but you know, we do let them know what we're doing.
Have a whole bunch of. You want to go first, or?
Yeah.
Radio guy, go for it.
Is it more spread, and how far will it spread if you're on the water tower? Is it more?
You mean it's a line of sight issue, correct?
Yeah.
You're in the frequency
Well, no.
range of line of sight.
Not the frequency that it's at. That would be, the next step up in frequency would be an urban radio, but we're not. This is 2 meters, 144 megahertz.
So how far are you going to broadcast now where you couldn't before?
Probably, we'd be able to have the county get directly a hold of us through our repeater. Troy, because that's where most of the agencies are. And they can talk to Grafton, there's a repeater in Grafton, and if we were up higher, they could probably get to us too. Because I can talk to Troy, no problem, to my house, and I'm up farther above the water tower, so.
How large is the repeater, Ted, that you?
Well, it's a box maybe about this big, power supply and a radio, and that's it.
And what do you need from us to, other than the okay from us, do you need us to help with the mounting, or would you guys take care of the mounting?
Well, I had questions from the water
Yeah.
department on that. Yeah.
The mounting, you know, I mean, we would.
We can handle all that.
Yeah, we have
We
guys
just need a
that.
place to put it, so it's out of the weather, you know, so it doesn't get rained that much stuff, and that would be it.
We have that and they're what we call cavities,
Yeah, cans.
cans, and they're about
3 feet high.
3 feet high.
Cylinders.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's the separation between the two signals as well.
Right, what were your questions from,
A whole bunch. Well, I have some from Jim. I have some. What is the wattage output? What is your
Right
wattage?
now, 15 watts.
Okay, so you're all right. So you don't need any FCC RF signage on the tower site, which would be a tower site because you're low wattage. Site access. Do you have remote control abilities to the repeater?
Yes.
Okay, so that was one question from the water department. They don't want to have to have
Agree.
personnel. Good. Electric cost, you'll be on air 24/7, 15 watts, 24 hours a day. Approximately what ballpark?
Been in North Hoosick for a year. They haven't noticed
We
any increase in their bill.
up the firehouse, we haven't really noticed any. I mean,
It's pretty minimal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is very
When it's
minimal.
not transmitting, it's drawing microamps.
Right. It's just
And maybe
an
2
end
amps
area.
on the transmitter.
We, you know, on a weekly basis, we have a round table discussion on there. That's probably where it gets used a lot on Thursday nights.
Okay.
And, you know, if a storm, like, I'll say Friday, like if the storm came down closer, I was actually listening all night to the repeater, and if someone needed to contact me, I was right there at the firehouse.
Yeah, 15 watts, it's, yeah, LED bulb on all the time, basically. Grounding transmitter housing. You mentioned it's just a smaller box for the actual transmission device. Are you planning to be on top or side mount on the tank? And
We're gonna be at the bottom of the tank someplace with some kind of structure or some kind of box, whether it be plywood or whatever.
sorry to clarify, for the antenna, I'm sorry, the
For
antenna, yeah.
The antenna, I'd like to go to the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you, because the other thing came up was insurance for personnel getting on top of the tower, with it being village property, also isolating it from some of the electronics up there, both for monitoring the water tank, and I know you guys have no interference issues, but the other thing that they brought up was the village has radio usage. They have some RF up there already, just to make sure the interference is not, if there's any testing that can be done ahead of time.
I think that's 400 megahertz or above, isn't it?
Well, there could be a harmonic. I'm not sure where they, if just to make sure that
No,
they're good.
there's enough separation there. You only need 600 kilohertz at 144 megahertz to separate two signals.
Okay, so you guys should be good with that and harmonic. Yeah, so then it was just installation and making sure that if it's ever removed, there's not any damage to the top.
There won't be any damage to anything.
Okay.
Just a piece of cable running down the side of the water tank.
Basically, I mean,
Good.
I'm aerodynamic naturally.
Yep.
Now, regular FM is 87.7 to 107.7. We're up around 144, 145.
So initially, do you guys basically want to get a shot and test it up there? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, that's, just to see if, you know, the stuff that stuff is having an issue.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, we would, you know, test it out, however long we want to test it out, you know. I'm good,
Yeah, I'm good.
And you guys could be the start of us making a registered tower site for 5G. Come on, we need money. We'll put those right on those sides there. Okay, thank you guys.
Well, you never know because, you know, I don't know what, you start putting stuff like that in the tower.
Yeah, it can get to be, yep.
Brian, are you good with this?
I'm good. I think as long as everything's addressed and they can test and,
All right,
yep.
looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
These guys do come in and help us at different times.
Yep.
That are really communications with us. So I am doing it for whatever.
And also known as ham radio for people who aren't sure.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested, I have some,
Your carrier.
Yeah.
I have some flyers, if anyone's interested, or information.
And he has applications too.
I do have applications.
With the club.
You do not have to be an amateur radio operator to join our club. So
We need
that's,
more girls.
All right, so I guess I'm
All right, we're good. We got a motion.
Bobby.
I made a motion.
And I second it.
Okay, so the motion was made by Bobby and seconded by Ben to approve the
Cool.
request. Any further discussion?
Thank you guys for all that you do.
Aye.
Aye.
Can you pass up a flyer before you
All
leave?
right,
yes,
carries, thank you guys.
sure, thank you.
And thank you for all you guys do and
Pass them right around.
volunteer for.
Brian, not a member.
My radio days have ended. Nobody wants to hear me anymore. Except for kids.
Unfortunately, that stuff is still in your
Yeah,
head.
you're right.
A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
We got,
Yeah, I twitch.
want me to contact you?
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll bring in Brian to it and I'll bring in the water.
Okay,
guy,
I'll
Jim,
give you
Josh.
contact.
Okay, we can put 10 more high school students in here now.
Bye.
Down to Ben?
Thank you.
Bob and Brian. All right. Moving on, I have a few updates that I want to give. And these updates are mainly requiring the GAC filtration changeout and a blood testing. And I have these written down so that my wonderful deputy clerk and clerk have access because they don't have to listen to a recording of me talking yak forever. So we are now at the point where we're about ready to schedule the first GAC GAC filtration changeout. It's been over a year of successful operation. We're now at the first major maintenance moment. This is changing out the carbon on tank 1. As a reminder, the type of GAC system that filters the village water uses the lead and lag design, which consists of 2 tanks and a series of pipes and valves that allow you to modify the flow direction. Right now we send the water into tank 1 where it's filtered, and then it runs into tank 2 where it is again filtered, and then goes out to everyone. When the time to change out tank 1 happens, the pipes and valves will be set so that the water no longer goes through tank 1 anymore. It will go straight into tank 2 and be filtered there. Since tank 1 has been the one collecting the PFAS chemicals during filtration, tank 2 should be mostly free of the PFAS chemicals and thus ready to handle the filtration needs. When the change-out begins, tank 2 will become the primary filtration tank or the lead tank, while tank 1 is taken offline and goes through the recharge process. Once tank 1 is completely refreshed, it will become the lag tank, meaning that the water will still run through tank 2 first, and then it will be run into the newly prepared tank 1. And at this point, we're back to operating it as normal. At some point, tank 2 will then need to be the first to have breakthrough, since it will have been the lead tank, and being the one filtering the PFCs first, so that it will eventually later need to be changed out again. And this is sort of how the process works. Whereas some of the early GAC filtration systems only had 1 tank, we had the 2-tank design, and it's to make sure that even through the change out of tank 1, we still have non-stop filtration producing non-detect finished water. During this entire change out process, which should take about a week or 2, we will be communicating to the community when it starts, how things are going, any testing results we receive, and all of it will have a battery test on a daily basis, and when it's complete. In terms of the starting date, I'm thinking that May 17th is going to be the starting date to change out, and again, the process should take a week or 2 to achieve that. Before I go on to the blood testing, does anyone have any questions on the GAC change out and how that works? All right. The second one, and I've actually had a lot of people asking about this recently, the Department of Health, in combination with,
Just a note from Jim. He also said that will mean some really long days for the crew.
Yes.
And that I want to make sure that's noted, that they will be putting in a lot of extra time. It's
Yes.
5 to 7 days of intense labor.
Yes, and a whole lot of flushing, and
Yep.
They're pretty much expecting to live there Thursday night and hoping that it can be done by Friday, so they
Yes.
don't have to work a lot Saturday, but that is possible.
Is the
I-
labor just our guy,
Yep.
the water treatment guys?
Possibly Neil?
Calgon will be there for a good portion of that. I think they're going to be there on the 17th day. And then I think, and I know I have some folks from the EC and DOH in here, so feel free to hop in if you guys have some questions, or answers. Hello, guys. My impression is there's going to be a lot of tests that they have to do at various stages of this. And Dave, you may have some insight on this as well. Dave with this MRB. There's just a lot of tests that go through the process to make sure it's flushed properly, and then once the water's going through the test before it gets turned back on, that sort of thing. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
I think you guys gave a very good description, and you're right, we will be testing it throughout the process, and it will be, once the new carton is installed, water will be flushed through it to waste while we test it to make sure that everything is being removed before it's put back online.
And then once all the tests come back good, we're back to normal. But running through tank 2 first, and then tank 1 later. Okay. All right. Moving on to the blood testing update. The Department of Health, in combination with the village, is about a week or 2 away from being ready to get all the details out regarding the second round of blood testing, as well as all the data from all of the testing in round 1. In terms of blood testing, there are a few points I want to stress or restate, as some of this has been mentioned in previous meetings. First, this is open to everyone. This is not just to people who were tested in round 1. So in the case of people who were tested previously, this is a chance to see what our PFOA blood serum count is. The expectation and the hope, of course, is that it's considerably lower as our exposure has changed significantly. In fact, we've had many conversations with DOH leading up to this point, and we sort of all felt the 2-year mark was the right time to start round 2 for the blood testing based on sort of the half-life, the expected half-life, which could fall anywhere from 3 to 5 years or 2 to 5 years, depending on what you look at. And again, for people who were not tested in round 1, you are welcome and encouraged to take part in that. In terms of the data release from all of the testing in round 1, we've had 2 different productive sit-down meetings with members of the village board, members of DOH, and members of the community. The first one, which was in the fall of 2017, gave us, the village and community members, a chance to discuss with DOH what we would like to see regarding the eventual final rollout of data. In that meeting, representing the community was Jan McGuire, a school nurse, Michael Hickey, Emily Marpy, Maggie Kinney, Lorene Hackett, and Craig Pine, who was not a trustee at that point. Dr. Marcus Martinez was invited but unable to attend that meeting. A couple of weeks ago, we had our follow-up sit-down where we got some updates on where the data was at and various breakdowns. And again, from the community, the majority of the group was there. Jan McGuire couldn't make it, but Dr. Martinez was able to attend and was present there. It was a very good, productive meeting. Brian was at that one too.
Yep.
And Craig was at that one again as well. DOH is working on finalizing everything so in the next week or two, we can get all of it out to you. So we hope that all of the data from round 1 and details on how round 2 will work will be out in the next couple of weeks, and we're looking to begin sampling of round 2 early June. As we had mentioned previously, you will be able to do blood draws at the Twin Rivers facility, which is over off of Danforth Street. Even if you aren't a normal patient there, even if you're not a member there, you're still able to do it there. And I think you can also do it in Bennington. Is that correct? You'll also do
Yeah, the hospital.
blood draws in Bennington, the hospital as well, for round 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like that's the case.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on blood testing? Okay. 6:03. I got 4 more minutes, and just as a reminder, we're about to finish up our public hearing regarding local law number 2. Also, at this point, we're at the people to be heard section of the meeting. So, if you have any questions or comments you want to bring to us, as a reminder, state your name and your address. And also, as another reminder, all meetings are recorded and eventually go online just for record-keeping purposes. So, I have a general idea on how many people would like to speak or share tonight. Okay. So like a 4-minute, I guess, limit to start. Let's go first.
Sure. Emily Marby, 1 Average Street Extension, 12 New York. I'm here on behalf of my godmother, Olivia Sutherland, for her update on the list book. She'd like to know when she will have a driveway. Or if what's
Yeah,
going on.
I can give there's two basically programs we're working on. The first one is is the buyout program. The second one is the one that we actually have at the end of the agenda, which is the grant that we did with the town to make some fixes up high, but that really doesn't affect her. In terms of the buyout, Andy and I, we're trying to get everything in order. We've had many conversations with the state. It's being primarily run out of homes and community renewal, and the idea was that if they primarily run it, that means there's less things holding up the process because multiple agencies, because the Department of State would be involved, the EC would be involved, and there's one more, I can't remember who, other places could be involved, but HCR is sort of taking the lead.
She's most likely going to be waiting like years, right? I mean, she doesn't have any access
Because
to
of
her
the-
garage.
Yeah. Because
Car's
the way
still in there?
She's 77.
Right, the car's still in there, right?
No, the car is out.
my goal, in all honesty, and with how this works, our goal is that we're trying to get our first closing by July 1, which is the first year anniversary of the flood.
Are you going to focus on that area, like right
Yes,
down in there?
yes.
Just so you can...
When we started, we had like 13 or 14 properties that we envisioned, and when we sort of went to the state and said, hey, do we have the money? They obviously gave us quite a bit of money, $1 million. It wasn't everything that we had asked for, but it was definitely something. It's a very substantial something. So I think that the ideal situation is that this summer we work with the people in this area to hopefully come to agreements where we can purchase their property for the time to move out. And then we start looking ahead to asbestos surveys and survey work, title work that will also go into the closings, and eventually get them out. The ideal situation is that we can be working with them, and they're all ready to talk to us, and where we want to talk to them, we have to get the details of the plan worked out. And there's a lot of rules because funding coming from the state means that there are certain things we can do and can't do with the property once all that's, once the transactions are done. So we're at the point where we're trying to get all of the ducks in a row so we can sit down with them and go right through this.
Kevin, do you have any luck with the guy you know that does the sheds?
No, I have not. Actually, I forgot
Did you
about it.
forget?
Yeah.
It's all right. It's
Should've
been a couple,
should've reminded me.
months.
Yeah.
It's okay. She just called me the other night. My name was spelled wrong on my baby invite, so she was
Good
like,
question.
can you find out for me?
Time constraints about that with the money, we're
Yeah.
doing time constraints. I don't think that's gonna be the case, but I
Is
don't
that
think we've gotten to that bridge
Just
yet.
for the winter
We
or
have- We're
for,
at the point
Well,
of
I mean, obviously it's
through the
not
budget
probably
Okay.
gonna fix this
and
summer.
putting together a budget.
I mean, she's
Now-
right
The state has
down
not raised
there.
any,
Okay.
they understand that.
We wanna make
Emily,
sure that we do it
one
within
thing to,
expeditiously, so we
one
don't
thing
lose
that,
money.
that could expedite this, so we received a SAM grant, from then Assemblyman McLaughlin, who's now the county executive. And we're using that to buy a pretty hefty excavator. That we won't be able to get that anytime before June first, because it has to line up with our fiscal year, but I've
So
already
you're thinking
submitted that
maybe a
information.
temporary culvert?
If we end up getting the specific property that would allow us to divert
Mickey's?
slightly, it would be 7, I think it would be 7. If-
So is it across the street?
It'd be the one directly up against Miss Olivia's yard.
It's Mickey's house.
Okay, then it hypothetically is possible that if we were able to close on that, we could certainly go in and divert it and sort of fix it up. But in all honesty, that assumes a lot has to happen before that point. We have to get the excavator through the state, we have to close on that. So hypothetically, fall
Maybe.
could be possible, maybe.
Alright, so if we find ourselves in the situation where we're into winter again with her age,
Mhm.
I don't know, like who,
I think
for
that-
her to reach
Yeah.
out to people and be like, hey, how do I fix this? It's
Yep.
above her, she just knows she can't drive to her garage.
Yeah. I think when mid and late summer come by,
We'll have a better idea.
yeah, we'll have a better idea and
Go
keep
from
pushing it.
there.
Keep pushing it, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Before I get to the other two, I want to look for a motion to close the first public hearing.
motion?
Second.
Ben and second Brian, any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We could actually adopt this tonight, could we not?
This one you could,
The local law tonight.
you can on the parking restriction.
You guys want to adopt it tonight? There's nothing to stop us from doing that. We discussed it in previous meetings.
You guys are gonna pass a law.
Do you have that handy? Local law, or no, I think I still have it. In that case, I need a motion to adopt local law number 2.
Well, I prepared a resolution, someone will introduce the resolution.
I'll
Someone will
I'll
second
make the
that.
resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Now,
Roll call.
not to sound like a lawyer, but this is technically introductory local law number 2. Recall that you did introduce local law 1 of 2018, that was the tax cap override, that was not adopted by the board, it wasn't needed. So while this is introductory local law number 2, it will technically be local law number 1 adopted. Right, so right now, the resolution, I will include that this would be a resolution adopting local law 1 of 2018. And we'll note for the record that this does constitute a type 2 action under seeker, so there's no seeker determination that needs to be made. And so that's in front of the board for consideration of adopting a local law.
Yep.
This has to be a roll call, right?
Correct.
Resolution adopting local law, now number 1. Is that where you're calling it? We said,
Yeah, let's make sure, because there's a couple of them. So this one is dealing with introductory local law number 2.
how much of this do you want me to read?
Just paragraph 1.
Okay.
It's very straightforward.
So this is the resolution adopting local law number 1, introductory local law number 2, 2018. Introductory local law number 2, 2018 of the Village of Hoosick Falls being hereby is adopted as local law number 1 of 2018 by the Village of Hoosick Falls. And local law number 1 of 2018 of the Village of Hoosick Falls shall be filed in the Office of New York State Department of State in compliance with all applicable legal requirements, and the village clerk is hereby directed to cause such filings to be completed. All right.
I will note one other thing.
Yes.
I did note a typographic correction. There's 3 paragraphs, or 3 sections of the local law. However it made it is 1, 2, and 5. We'll correct that to 1, 2, and 3. Merely a typographical error, but you can move forward and act on that local
All
law
right.
as corrected.
Thank you. So now I am looking for a roll call vote.
Vanessa? Yes.
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Yes. Ben?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, me. right. Local law is adopted.
When was that introduced?
Me.
Second by Ben.
Me. Judy, what I'm gonna do is, I have this on our system, we'll include all of that in the letter.
There you go. All students can now go text their friends. They just watched the local law pass. I know it's very exciting. You're gonna Instagram it. I know.
Snap.
All right, looking for a motion to open public hearing for local law number 3 of 2018, local law amending the Village of Hoosick Falls zoning map.
Motion.
Brian? Second, Vanessa. This is again, as we discussed last time, we discovered that our zoning map, excuse me, was posted online as a draft form picture, and there were some slight errors in it. As we discovered this and got the correction from Barton and Judas sent here, this is the local law that would officially adopt what was originally supposed to be adopted. Doesn't sound about it. Would be correct
Yes.
correct descriptor.
Well
So
done.
you got it? Okay. So at this point, again, any local law public hearing, anyone has a chance to sound off on anything regarding local law number 3, which would be amending the zoning map. Would anyone like to speak on it?
I have one question on it.
Fire away.
So the problem that we're correcting is we didn't have a reproducible copy of the map that was maintained its fidelity as we used it in different ways. What will the map be that we're going to use, and what will be the official format of the map?
Well, the two parts were, one, the one that was online was the draft one, but the second one was when we actually looked at the right plan, there were some mistakes.
Yep.
It was
So-
shifted a bit.
Yep. So what will we have now going forward that won't get shifted again? Is it a PDF? Is it an electronic
No,
file?
maybe
Is it that piece
It's
of
like-
in
paper?
all of
like
it.
here.
I understand what the change is.
It is an electronic form as well, that's with the village, it's with the building department. We have printed off of that electronic form.
Yes, we have an
This
electronic
we have
format that's
electronic
gonna be
and-
reliable.
Yes.
We're not gonna have this problem again.
No.
That's my question.
No.
Thank you.
There might be other changes though.
Craig, that.
And just to correct, when it comes to the Oakland Street property that was multiple parcels, does this also cover rectifying that? Because the
It
zoning,
rectifies their issue.
that as well,
Places
okay.
properties in the industrial district.
That was actually how we discovered that this was
That's
that.
correct.
Since they originally thought they were zoned like three different things or something like that. Alright. So anyone want to speak on this? Alright, public hearing will remain open for 30 minutes. We will move on to our meeting, so. We were at, who's to be heard, who else wanted to speak? Kevin, and what's your name?
Mary.
Have you go first, please.
I'm Mary Fuller from Pine Valley Road, Spalding York. In regards to the sidewalk in front of St. Mark's, I've heard that it has been brought up to the board before, but there is a serious cracks, and that's even in front of where the handicaps are. I myself have tripped out it 7 times. And I can't see anybody who hasn't tripped on it. And even when it gets dark, it gets very hard to see the cracks. And I am also afraid of people who are of elderly because we do community dinners at St. Mark's. And them falling and hurting themselves.
Okay.
So I don't see why that can't be fixed.
Yeah, was this part of something that would have been fixed last year if that stinking flood hadn't happened?
No.
Okay. But is this something that can be fixed?
well, is that a sidewalk that's the church or ours?
Oh, this is the sidewalk, okay, 50.
We were up past there today and we kind of dressed up the driveway entrance, which was kind of in rough shape, the flat top.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So a normal sidewalk program is the 50/50.
It's following the 50/50 program, right?
Okay. Who would be someone in touch base with the St. Mark's about it?
You can reach Barbara Rubowski, and Ron Danforth.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will follow up with them and we'll take a look at it and see what we can do on it.
So we can make a
Yep, thank you. All right. Kevin, thank you.
Kevin Allard, 5421 State Route 7, Hoosick Falls, New York. Is there an update on an alternative water supply?
There is.
Seeing as how we have some people here who could probably answer that question.
We certainly do. We have met with DEC has presented some information to us. We met with DEC and presented our opinions back to them. I know they've taken some more information back to the company to request further things to be done. That's the short version. DEC, do you guys have anything?
That is correct. The mayor has brought in some questions and concerns that we have taken into consideration and have brought forth to Honeywell and St. Cobain and told them that they definitely need to go out and do more robust look at various sources, and they are in the midst of doing that right now. And upon completion of those additional investigations, then we'll be able to be prepared to come to the public and be able to tell you what has been looked at.
Yeah.
Do we have a timeline from them?
Well, I was going to ask.
It's we've
Other
asked for a lot of work to be done. So I won't give you a timeline, but it's going to take many months to get this done.
Is someone like on top of them monitoring that and applying pressure so that
Yeah.
we don't keep having the same questions asked for the last year?
Yes, it's come through to the DEC very loud and clear that we need to push, and we are pushing, and we are going to get them to do what is necessary to get to
Do you have more questions about it?
And at what point will a timeline be imposed?
I
mean, you can't keep fishing. At
No.
some point, you have to impose a timeline.
I think
it
it-
will be done by this day.
I think it depends on different, because there's multiple investigations going on.
Well, that's true, but there's also multiple engineering firms that can be out there working. Okay, so at some point in time, you say, we are not gonna play this game anymore, we're past 9 innings, we're not gonna go to extra innings in this game, and we're going to impose a timeline.
Actually, though, Kevin, I just want to interject on that one, and I know we've talked to him, and I'm very, as frustrated as anyone here that the process is taken as long as it has, but I do want to make the point that I don't want to trade one set of problems for another set that might come down the road in 20 years. It seems like, just plug into Tom Hannock. Well, what problem could we end up with 20 years from now? And I also am not impressed with the not so stellar job Troy does. Just look at the traffic alerts on Hoosick Street with their own infrastructure. So I want to make sure we're not trading one problem for another, and I feel like setting a drop dead date of you need to have this done by this date might result in us perhaps being connected to the wrong choice. With that said, I do wish it would go faster, but I think I want to remind everybody that we also need to make sure that we do our due diligence and that 20 years down the road, 5 years, 10, 20, 30, whatever, we haven't traded one problem for another.
I understand your position, but at some point in time, when fines start adding up, people decide that it's a lot cheaper, it's more cost effective, let's put it that way, to hire more engineers to speed things up, to get to the right decision, so that you're not making that 20-year problem down the road. You actually hire the people to get the job done in an expeditious manner. Okay?
Right, I just want to say that this isn't an easy, there's no easy fix here. So there's a number of different things that need to be looked at. Groundwater sources are difficult to find here in that we're trying to evaluate to make sure that we don't have a system that brings in more contamination in the future. And so there's not like just go 10 miles down the road and we've got a perfectly clean water source and we've got everything fixed. So I just want to express that this is a difficult situation to find. If what we want to find in the end is an absolutely clean water source, that may not in the end happen. It may not come to fruition because of the situation we're in. I just want to express that. But we are pushing the companies to do the work that they need to do and do it as quickly as possible.
And in defense and gratitude to DEC, DEC has been fantastic, and listening to anything we residents and the board offers. They've been
Yeah.
very responsive, they've been very respectful, and I'd say moving quickly as they can to make sure the process is done correct and that it is done the right way.
And I think the one thing that I hear from most people is you look across the border in Bennington, and Bennington's got pipes going in. Bennington had an alternative water source to tap into. North Bennington just tap into Bennington. Right. And we even looked into the possibility of tapping into Bennington. They don't have the capacity.
Because they gave it to North Bennington.
Right. I mean, North Bennington
Too
got
late
there
now.
first. So there hasn't been a silver bullet solution. If there had been a silver bullet solution, maybe.
There won't be a silver bullet solution. I think you're looking for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But,
And
next question, VOCs.
Yes, you weren't here the last meeting. I was ready to give it to you. Now I have to find.
I wasn't the last meeting.
No.
Oh, you weren't.
We had an extra last meeting.
Oh, you slipped another one in?
We snuck in your mailbox and grabbed a copy of the Eastwick and Eagle.
I don't.
You two, you better watch out.
What do I need to read the newspaper for? I'm here.
Because we love them and we want them to be in business.
John Street Shallow Groundwater Interim Remedial Measure Tree Design Investigation and Treatability Study Work Plan. That is a title. It was approved in March of 2018. The site work began first week of April. The scope of work contained will acquire additional information for the design and implementation of an IRM to address the VOCs in shallow groundwater at John Street. Approximately 60 borings will be completed in and around the source areas associated with VOCs from the site, both on and off-site boring. Chemical analysis for VOCs as well as PFAS. Additional work includes characterization of the aquifer materials for remedial technology studies, installation of monitoring wells, infiltration testing and groundwater sampling, drilling work, treatability testing, lab analysis and validation is expected to take approximately 4 to 5 months. Honeywell did submit an RIFS work plan, which is under review by DEC. DEC has issued a contingent approval for a subset of tasks to be completed associated with the RI, remedial investigation, to advance understanding of the site concurrent with work plan review. The approved scope of work includes installation of 8 bedrock wells and a hydrogeological evaluation as to the interconnectedness of the overburden and bedrock aquifers. 21 additional soil borings were proposed to evaluate soils on site, as well as 5 soil borings off-site in the surrounding neighborhood to be completed along the municipal sanitary sewer system. There's your updates. I had it ready last week.
Can I just put that into,
English?
English?
Yes, please.
but for everyone, just, is that.
It will not be our new water source.
They need to do more investigation to determine how materials migration through the groundwater and through the soil and bedrock. And at the same time, they're doing treatability studies and more investigation to determine if there's a way that they can stop the source of the continued migration of groundwater into the surrounding area.
I recall some of the numbers that came out of that place. When you're drilling and digging and all that, does that release any of that up into the?
Volatiles, they could potentially do that, but we have a community air monitoring program that is in place to, when they're doing any work with soil removal or any that might release into the air, so that you're not impacted and take samples, make sure that they're not, nothing is getting away from the way the investigation is and impacting the community.
Can I get your name, please?
Oh,
Yes.
Sue Edwards, she's a treasure trove of information, and you've been involved in so much of this for so long now. I know you've been in some meetings, so thank you.
She's the boss.
She's the boss. It's a new title.
Last question.
Yeah.
Gen X air quality test results from Liberty Street or McCaffrey Street.
Do we have anything yet? I don't think we have
And
it.
also the testing that's, the drilling that's being done at Liberty Street, that they've actually been testing on.
We're still waiting on the,
We're waiting on the data from Liberty, we haven't received it, we should be receiving that soon from the testing that they've done in the past for this month. The Gen X testing of the stats that he's talking about, unfortunately, I'm not I'm not in the division of air, so I don't know. Yeah, Tom Gentile is often, has come to these meetings in the past, and will be able to answer that question.
I will follow up on that as well.
Those test results should be on the village's website.
But we don't have them.
Yeah.
So,
I'll follow up with that. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
He's wonderful. Any response, please?
All right.
And a request, I can be quite brief, actually, Mayor Allen, if I could, I'll just leave just one copy of this, and that's for you. But what's happening on the next 2 Thursdays at the Polish Hall, there's almost enough for everybody. There's more there. Next 2 Thursdays.
On that side.
At 6:30 at the Polish Hall, of which I'm a member. We're going to have it, it's being called a Citizens Information Session. It's totally open. I'm encouraging other professionals, attorneys, appraisers, real estate folks, officials are all officially invited, but are not obligated by any means, and your absence won't be counted against you. Okay, but it's simply to help clarify to the best of a number of residents understanding what's really happening with the GAR appraisal. And I do want to state for the record that I've been very appreciative of many of the responses I've gotten from many of the town officials, village officials, and GAR, and I want to especially note Tony, our assessor, who's been very accessible. And so that being said, there's a lot of concern out there, and this is to hopefully help clarify it. And we're having it up, and we're looking for help. I'm down as the moderator. I don't want to be the speaker. So, Andrew, we certainly welcome your input, because the other thing is that, so that's the announcement. I'm going to have to test these other people here even have it.
So is this in part trying
Just the
to?
first page they're on, is all you got, what I was talking about.
So can I have a question?
Sure.
I think you had the third working session, you have tentative April 19th. That's a clerical error? I
Oh,
assume
thank you.
it's May 19th, the day of the wood race, right?
Yeah, because I was on the wood race, and I'd be a month late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would actually thank you for bringing that up, because that was the other thing, subject to your approval. I hope that doesn't even have to happen. I know I'm going to be kind of burned out, because anything I'm doing is quite candidly pro bono. I'm not looking for work. I mean, it may end up happening. It totally doesn't matter. That's not what this is about. But it's about clarification. That third is Rob, right? Is that your name?
Bob.
Bob, sorry, Bob.
It's okay.
I'm newer on here.
I don't know, we're down about.
What I'd like to do, because I run the woods race every year, I'm going to be there. Some other folks are going to be there. We're kind of hoping, I will have RP 524 forms there that day for anybody who wants to pick them up. Now what that is the grievance form, that people choose to grieve. And I'm not recommending that, by the way, and reading their assessment. But that's subject to, obviously, some kind of approval. I mean, it's a day in the park for me. Would there be any problem with us using the gazebo if there's a few people that got together, or?
Well, let me ask you a couple questions as I'm looking over this. First off, is your goal, it sounds like, is to educate people in the process?
Correct, and I'm waiting on some feedback on some specific information from GAR or the town.
Okay.
A FOIL request was filed with the town. I'm sure many of you are familiar. The key piece of data that is missing for anyone that I've talked to is the specific sales data points, the real property sales data points used for their particular assessment. I have received mine from government. They're graciously gave it to me. There are many others that would like the same, especially large landowners, which obviously aren't in the village. But, that is the key piece of data which I hope that they will share.
Okay.
And I'll be able to, right.
Have you invited town officials or GAR officials to?
Yes, I've had a couple very good conversations with some of the top people at GAR. Dave and Cindy, but they're extremely busy, obviously, I get it. Limited resources, I get that. This is not, one of the things that I would be looking for is to confirm, and the reason for the FOIL request was for the town contract, was simply to say, look, this is what's promised, this was what was delivered. That's all, so people know, because when people grieve, they have to know. And again, it's nothing about malice or people not doing their job. I think GAR did an excellent job with the vast majority of what they did. I'm a Western New York guy, they're from Western New York, I get it, I know the culture, I know the quality of people there, and I know GAR. So that's it. I'm happy to take any other questions.
I just want to make sure, and I know your primary intention isn't to represent anyone that may want to pursue anything legal, but if we're allowing the use of a village park or area, I just down the road want to make sure for your sake and our sake it's not, I think that wouldn't be kosher, correct? If it leads to clients.
For informational and educational purposes only?
Yes. That's, yeah, just to make sure that if we do, it's very, very correct.
Yeah, totally information only, no financial transactions. With,
But no cards, no business cards, no.
And you said you're not getting paid for this, and you're not hoping to get work out of this.
Anything that, I've got a full plate, candidly. Anything that, if people choose to, are interested, I'm actually going to hope other attorneys step up. And I would actually like to put together a team of attorneys that would be willing to represent people when they need it. 90% of people won't need it, okay? But again, I want to make that clear. After grievance day, I can't answer what will happen, what I will do. I can't speak to that.
And in
No, I mean, it's an open space. It certainly can't be used for business generation or solicitation purposes, but for educational information, I mean, that's...
Okay. So then you're officially...
I said certainly the public pavilion should not be used for personal business generation or solicitation purposes, but for information and general educational purposes.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's correct.
So then you're officially requesting...
No handing out of business cards or solicitation materials. It's just available for providing information.
Right. What will be, I believe, if this day is even needed, this third day, any additional information that I may have received from GAR or whoever is with me will be shared. So that's a couple days before grievance day.
Okay. So then this is the third day, only if needed.
Yeah.
Ideally, the 10th and the 17th work for it.
Yeah, the 10th and the 17th are locked solid with protocol.
Okay.
And anyone's welcome. And I would encourage again others to step up.
What other events are in the park on the after? Is there anything else?
No, it's the road race.
Okay.
That's it. No.
So you're officially requesting the possibility of using the park on May 19th?
Yeah, there may be a corner of it, after the wood race. Probably 5 people there.
No.
As long as everything with Andy had said
As long as
Andy
Andy said it's okay, that's totally
We can
fine.
make a motion and
Sure. Yeah, I'll make a motion.
to approve usage of the park on the 19th.
Park gazebo on the 19th. What, you're talking like 10 o'clock probably, Jim?
Yeah, well, the race is over 10, the awards are over 11.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna be out of there by 1.
Okay.
That's the last limit.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, second from Ben. Any further discussion on that?
And let the minutes reflect.
He's going swimming?
Well, we'll just let the minutes reflect that the motion is to allow use of the park for educational and information purposes only, without any business solicitation or handing out of solicitation materials.
Right, the only, like you're saying, Jim, you may have the form you referenced as far
Yeah,
as the
that's
grievance form?
document.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's the form.
So that's okay, right, Andy, to hand those out? If it's the grievance form from the town Would that be acceptable to hand that out if he did?
It's a publicly available
Right,
document.
okay, right, okay. So make sure-
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And by the way, anything that is gonna be talked about frankly is very accessible online. I'm not creating this
Yep.
stuff,
No, no,
I just don't know how to
understood.
get to it.
Yep,
No, we
understood.
get that, we just wanna cover.
Yep. Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Could I also bring one more thing up?
You got about 30 seconds, so I wanna keep
Yep,
moving.
yes,
should I sign
Anthony, you may know the answer to this, so if you do, that'd be super. The town attorney is looking into the possibility of allowing folks who grieve, village folks who do decide to grieve, and get their paperwork in by grievance day, May 22nd, okay? Timely, but they may not have their appraisal finished. There's an extreme shortage of appraisals here, of people available, it appears. And so that they would be allowed, to the extent allowable by law, if it's allowable by law, I just haven't looked it up, I'll be honest with you, that they get another 30 days to get their paperwork in. And again, I'm very sensitive to the other legal timeframes that are necessary, and I don't know if that's doable. Andrew, I don't know if you have a comment on that, or?
Well, that's town, though, that'd be town anyhow. 'cause ours
Correct,
is a
correct,
separate
correct.
statute.
But the reason I'm bringing it up here, is because if you folks would just concur, that it makes sense. Because if you guys do, it's more likely the board will.
I won't comment anything with the town issue.
No, and no, as we sit here, I don't know the answer to that either legally, so.
Okay.
We'll
Okay,
reserve
and
on that.
the town and county association is being contacted, so, okay, and I respect that answer. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Alright. Alright, still have a chance to speak on local law number 3, the zoning map. So if you want to raise your hand. Otherwise, we're gonna move on. We do not have a treasurer? We do not have a treasurer report. No treasurer report. Too busy this past week. Alright, you guys have received, the minutes from April 10th meeting?
Yep, I make a motion, we accept them as presented.
Second.
I'll give that one to Craig. Bobby and Craig.
Go for it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Bob, please report.
Real quick, because I gotta run through calls myself. So this is the April 2018 report. Total calls for 2018 for the month of April were 105. Last month there were 96. Total calls from 2018 to date were 408. Last year at this time there were 456. A total of 6 arrests for the month of April. And I'm just gonna skip over the type of calls that are all there.
Did you add more types of calls, Bob, to the list? It looks longer, or are we doing a different variety of calls?
I'm sorry.
So did you add more types of calls to the list, or are we answering more?
Well, these come as it changes.
Okay, so that's why. Okay.
That's why there's.
Yep.
There's, what you'll see there is in the month of April, in the first line, the calls for the month of April, and I'm just comparing from the month of March. Right?
Yep.
And the arrests this month were for vehicle and traffic. There was 2. There was one driver on top speed. Criminal trespass.
Littering?
A grand larceny harassment. The grand larceny and criminal trespass is the stealing of village property. Yep. The arrest was made on it. That was one of our pumps that were hoists that were stolen. We recovered it, but it was completely damaged. The insurance company got it. The second one, we've got a great idea as to where we took it, and we're still trying to track it. We had a very successful drug give back on the 28th. It was a total of 5 boxes, and that were collected and transported to Albany. We're still collecting it, so I want to leave that open. So if someone just came in a little while ago for medication, so we accept them throughout the whole year.
Right, okay.
The state road race went off on the 28th. It was a rainy night. As you know, Neil and I were very concerned about that. Right. But I have to say, it came off without
No
problems.
issues. Good.
Neil did a great job. I want to thank him and the Kenneth Fire Department for coming out and setting up for us. Short of everyone getting soaked, everybody had a good time at work. It worked out well. And then I want to be able to set up a meeting. I think Rob and Brian had mentioned about the videos, so we can get that up and running and get it done. We're going to be doing the videos for the police department as well as for the officers in here. the money is coming out of the drug procedure money.
Surveillance.
So it won't
Surveillance.
be the cost of the
Not
building.
making videos.
We're gonna hear a music video.
Here's our room, all right.
But we wanna get, I wanna get set up on that, and then Bob, if you and I can meet over some additional issues that are gonna come up next month.
No problem.
And the only other thing is, I just wanna get permission from the village board, I know I talked a lot about it. The police department wants to get, we've met with the cancer, the cancer run each year. And they indicated that they're looking to kind of, I don't want to use the word handle, they want to work with someone else. And what I thought that we could do is, in the police department, will take the lead on this, to create a fundraiser, start raising some money for something in the park here, like a memorial type thing, where if it's here or some other location that we can come to an agreement on. I wanted to talk to you about it as we start proceeding with this. We're not settled down on a location yet, but if we start putting some fundraising together, there'll be nothing to do per se, if we want to do the police park, with your permission that we go ahead and do that. I just think that's okay.
Did that security system include the outside? I know Bill
Yes.
Gaylor said there was some vandalism at the gazebo.
Yes, it will. The cameras out there now come into our station. What we're gonna be looking at is more elaborate type system, where we'll be able to video outside this building here, inside the building. And I know Rob is talking about a video inside of your presentation to you guys. So it will all kind of encompass into one. And with that, I know Bob is talking about body cameras on officers. I'm all for it. We're going to be looking at the cost of that too. So I want to try to wrap all this in as one. I can't promise everything will be there, but depending on the cost.
Okay.
The deal with the state that's coming in, they can take holding cells back in.
Right.
There's a cost involved in that.
Okay.
All right, looking for a motion to accept the police report. That was Craig and Kevin, I think. Four people spoke up on that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Before we go on to code enforcement, looking for a motion to close the public hearing regarding local law number 3.
Motion. Second.
Ben and Brian was second. Jump around, so I'm second caught up. Now, Andy, if I'm correct, we also have the option to adopt this tonight?
Procedurally, I don't believe so. Jude, have we received anything from Rensselaer County Planning on this? So, there's a requirement under the general municipal law that when there's a zoning amendment, and since the zoning map is part of the zoning law, it is a zoning amendment, it needs to be referred to the county planning department for review and recommendation. That was sent on April 25th, that was at your meeting. They do have 30 days under the statute
So
to
there's
respond, so there's still time.
Okay.
You can't act until we get the recommendation from the council.
All right, we'll put that on to the June agenda.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let me grab their things to sign so they
Thank
can
you.
get moving.
Yeah,
Pass them.
students just
Yeah,
casually
pass
pass
your
up your things
paperwork.
for trustee Busher to sign, if you like the signature.
I just know how much they love being here.
down the road.
Code enforcement report. Mark, please.
No. Yeah, you can. What?
Okay, everybody received a copy of my report. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about it, the information's there. If you see properties, I mean, refer to this if, somebody mentions a property to you, if there's something I'm working on, or touch base with me, I'll let you know where we stand. I know Bobby's mentioned the property, Kevin's mentioned the property. I have a kind of a running list. Get to them as I,
Understood.
so, yeah, there's a lot going on. So, overall, I continue to try and get the overall complaints down, or inspections down. Got it down under 100 now, trying to get it back down to a manageable level. So, just been working on that, so you see, the number of inspections I did in April was down, mostly because of that. I spent a lot of time just working on follow-ups on open cases and trying to close as many of those out as I can. So the only other thing that's probably changed more than anything on here is the properties that have gone to court. There are a number of new ones on there that have gone to court. To kind of
Bring it to tomorrow.
With having the new attorney, we've got our act together a little bit more, so we closed out some of the older cases and we started the new. And so this is kind of the newer list. There's only 2 on there that are left over from before that we're continuing to work on, but I think we're starting to see some changes and some attitudes and stuff overall.
I like hearing the fact that we've really sort of got all these procedures ironed out and the process is working.
We're working on the processes. I wouldn't say they're all ironed out yet, but we're working on them.
Right. And if I could add, one big thing is that the village court has now established the dedicated day for code enforcement cases. Memory serves me, it's
going to be the first Monday of every month.
Of every month.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's very good.
It will be. We'll keep the cases moving. We'll keep the docket moving. Village court in the evening tends to be very, very busy. And also this will require the attention of everyone sitting in here while court is in session as to how the village is approaching code enforcement and making sure that code compliance is achieved. So that's a good step.
Yeah, and Mark, I think your point about the fact that there's a lot of property that you're working on is very important to reiterate. I mean, you have over 30 some listed here. So a lot of people don't know that getting some of these things taken care of takes time, even some of the ones that are taken care of. And we're going to discuss later in the meeting under new business what our options are when we get to some of these points where nothing's moving. So, yeah. Thank you, Mark. Any other?
No, it's just good to see we have 9 cases pending in court, so that's good. We're getting them into the courts.
I think in time, that should become a small number.
Right, because people start to understand this is
We're
enforcing. This is what we're doing.
And this isn't an automatic thing. To get to this point, people aren't responding. We're giving at least a couple of opportunities for people to respond. If they don't respond, then we get to this point.
And the court even sends them a letter, and they don't respond to that.
Right. I mean, our goal is compliance. I mean, we're not looking to take people to court.
Right.
Just would rather have people comply, but if they're not.
Yeah.
Jason's he's a regular. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not out to get people. We're just trying to make sure things are done right.
Do you want to say that on the record?
So,
Jason said
he's done some great work. He's got some great purpose too.
Yep. Looking for a motion to approve the code enforcement.
Motion.
Ben?
Second.
Second, I think.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk's report.
We've been doing some digital death certificates, like recently, the past 3 or 4 months. But recently we've had 4 that we've done. Property changes, we've had 9, 1 family, 2 families. We've been entering water bills.
So many water bills.
It's
Got a new one tonight.
filling out paperwork for Rensselaer County for doing our property tax bill. Should be coming up this June.
Okay.
And numerous other things in the window, phone calls.
From the mayor, changing the agenda. Yeah. I know.
Many.
So sorry.
That should do it.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Looking for motion to approve clerk's report?
Motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Vanessa. Second, Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I did not receive a community service report. Ironically enough, we also forgot to approve him to community service director in our organizational meetings, so that will be coming later. Okay. Committee reports. Let's start on this side. Monkey around, sorry.
All right.
Side.
Working with the American Legion Post 40 on the Memorial Day Parade. Hope all the trustees can join the parade in March.
Hopefully it doesn't rain this year. Alan brought the rain.
No rain.
But the parade starts at 10 o'clock on Monday, May 28th. Also, the first summer concert of the summer concert series is June 23rd, and that's from 4 to 8 p.m. with the Hill Hollow Band. Still looking for sponsors. Anyone like to support the event. And the first band concert will be June 27th on a Wednesday with the Stardusters. And then the regular band concert start on July 4th.
I would expect one of those to be pretty special. Remembering Don Pierce, who passed away. Sure. I was a member of both bands. Super musical guy, great guy.
Kevin, you said the June 23rd, what time is that?
June 28th.
7th or 23rd?
The
23rd.
27th is at 7:30.
Okay.
The June 23rd is 4 to 8.
Okay.
Memorial Day, 10 a.m.
Yep, got that.
Who made the flyer online?
I did.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Great.
That's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Ben?
I only have, I did let Matt Curley know at Urswana that I'm going to be the member on the Hoosick Falls, part of the board. There won't be a meeting, they don't believe, until later in the summer.
Okay.
So I'll attend it as soon as I know when it is. And Vanessa's my backup, so if I can't make it, she'll be there. She can't vote, but she can be there and take information and stuff, so. But we'll see.
And just a quick thing on that, I was looking around for something on the website, and I noticed that they have a fair amount of out-of-date Hoosick Falls information on the website.
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll have to get it
As in
updated.
mayor's name
I just talked to
is
Matt
not
last
correct.
week, so.
Sid
Yeah.
Monahan?
It's not Monahan, but it's not Rob.
That'd be
Oh, that's interesting.
All right. Bobby?
Just a couple things, just want to remind people, if you haven't seen the street sweeper, that Neil started street sweeping, first ward this week, second ward next week, third ward the following, and fourth the following week, and it's odd even parking, so you gotta comply with the arrangement and everything, all the information is on the village website.
Is that Facebook?
I don't remember.
Can you check through that announcement on Facebook?
We can do that. It isn't.
Can you start this week?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think
Tomorrow could be actually the first day.
Oh, okay. So it'll go on Facebook tomorrow.
Perfect.
Made a liar on me, said it was May 8th.
That's like it on there.
And the transfer station is now open on Tuesdays and Saturdays, not just Saturdays, so summer hours. That's all I have.
Thank you. Brian?
Well,
Your
gracious.
5 second limit.
Oh, well then don't give me so many things to do. Jeez.
Yeah, you're done.
Nothing.
That was quick.
Wow.
No. Go for it, Brian.
Right?
Good luck.
Jeez.
that's exactly what.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna get voted out next year. You guys are silence. Quick update from water plant. Just besides the GAC change out, he said they're catching up on fixing meters that aren't working, that haven't been working. Also, Snow Street has to go to DOH for approval and then out to bid. He asked me to mention those.
DOH?
She said DOH.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, DOT, but not the streets, the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah. It's actually
lines,
I don't
so
know.
it'd be DOH. Okay.
You're making this longer than it needs to be. Kidding. On the communication front, had a call with NY Alert. Thank you, Marion, for joining in for that. They are actually gave us a walk through the new system that's way more robust than what exists now. They explained part of the delay has been actually basically creating maps of geofences of where you can send the alerts. So they want to make sure that's right. So if we need to send an alert, we're not sending it to somebody in Johnsonville, you know, the sky's falling and it's not there.
You know, the last storm I saw alerts going out from various NY Alert sections. I figured it was one of those.
Yeah, so they right now they're county level. This would be micro enough where if we wanted to, we'd have the capability of along Woods Brook, for example, to just let those people know that flooding could be possible. Or we could widen the net. I need to set up time to talk to Mark about including the town so we can go town to village to neighborhoods. We can also use it for polling, meaning you can communicate with constituents who have signed up and opted in to receive that. We can send updates on garbage collection, media daylight, things like that. We're expected hopefully to be what they call onboarded by June. Or toward the end of June. Rensselaer County may be a bit of a trouble spot. Apparently they aren't easy to work with sometimes, but they said they have alternate routes they can go down to try to make sure that they can accomplish what we need. And that part would be for the forced reverse alerts, meaning even if you haven't opted in, if there's an emergency such as there was this past summer, you could force a robocall and or text to any number that's a subscriber in that area. LWRP, we had our meeting last night. On 5/21, there will be a public info meeting to go over what that project is. It's the waterfront revitalization program. Location TBD, but they like to have different stations for information. Hopefully I'll have a location for that this week, and we'll send out a press release, and B&L will take care of a lot of that. Hoosick Rising, 5/16, 6 p.m., Hasty 3. And Greenway, that's a note for me, that's a to-do, that's not an update.
Brian, quick question.
Yeah.
When you say dealing with the county, have you tried reaching out to our county legislators, being their local? Have you tried doing that at all to get some?
Give them something to do?
Well, get some maybe support. You know.
Yeah, actually, that's actually an excellent idea. I'm gonna reach out to the person and have that's supposed to be in charge of that if I need that extra assistance in need. That's actually, thank you. I didn't even think of. I forget we have them. Sorry.
Alright, moving on.
No, but that's a good idea.
Okay.
Craig?
No formal reports, but we did, Vanessa and I did get to visit the highway department. Neil was gracious enough to show us around there. Jim and Josh spent a good hour with us showing us around the water treatment plant. And Ken and Keith also took us and showed us around the waste treatment plant. And I learned a lot.
I shared my knowledge for 36 hours with everybody I met after.
On which plant?
The waste, the bacteria fascinates me.
Yep. It's something that we don't
The
take much
of
credit
course,
for it.
The waste, I was in awe. Yeah, so yeah, I did. Is it my turn?
Yeah, that's all.
I went all with him, and I also talked with Neil briefly, and we're looking to get the flags. He had started the project with Bridget when she was still here, so we're looking at that, putting them up in the poles in town. I'm working on, I've always wanted a dog park. I've put it out to the public. A lot of feedback. We found a grant, Bennett happened to find a grant for us, and it's through PetSafe, and it just opened actually May 1st for applications, but to submit, and it's up to $25,000, you have to have a full blueprint, which I can help create and all that in renderings. I can do all that, but you have to have the spot picked out. So we keep tossing out these spots. The community has given a lot of ideas, but we have to nail down a spot to be able to move forward on, because they want you to just like show what you want there. But I got a lot of feedback from people on what they would like to see at the dog park.
We had a spot picked out, but Neil stole it from the highway garage.
Oh, down near the... Yeah, but a lot of people don't. I also, in that feedback, learned people do not want the dogs near any... Because a lot of people are like, well, how about we have it down near the playground, the castle playground. And they don't want the dog park near where the children are playing. That is, over and over, people made that clear. They want them separate. So that was good to hear. Because why not have it all in one place? No, keep it away. And
is there a deadline on that as far as the...
It's open applications, and
So the money runs out.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. But what they do also is they help maintain. So they continue. They'll put out grants after a few years. Also, that they put like 25 into initial, and then 5,000 into maintaining.
How big of an area are you looking at? Like how big do you talk?
Big enough where the dogs can just run. It doesn't have to be huge, especially if you can add. Oh no, half a football field would be plenty, I believe. No. Yeah, we don't need huge. I'd like to have like an agility area, stuff like that. Just a way for the dogs to be able to get off of their leashes. Yeah. And everybody wants it.
Neil, have you identified any possible spots you don't want to deal with that you can give away?
Hey, Rob, how about your
The water plant?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's possibly parking for Greenway grant for the, but yeah, but it's still near the kids' stuff. What's that?
Give me some cash, I'll get it.
I bet
Yeah, we do have money for that.
people would volunteer to clean it up because all of my posts said anything we can do to help to make this happen. So we could organize a cleanup day.
What about Scrubsky's Landing? What about part of Scrubsky's
I'm
Landing?
ambitious.
Is that, we own that acreage over there, that's Scrubsky's Landing. It's part of the Greenway property, it has benches in it, we improved it last year, put in some grills, Scrubsky's Landing.
If we find
There's
a spot,
a
we can
part
take
of
good
that
pictures.
that is partially wooded, but it's 6 acres, right? Or something, where a chunk of that more or less could be, unless Neil doesn't want that in his business.
I don't need that thing.
No. Well, I meant further down, by the river park.
They not in my yard? which has a fire
I
hydrant,
nominated
so
our
what's that?
front yard at St. Mary's, where the fountain is. I figured that
Monument
all
Park?
fenced in would be perfect right there in the middle of town.
The Civil War Monument Park.
Yeah.
They're dead.
I look out my window every day at the dog park.
Oh my God, I gotta fix that.
Actually, maybe look at the landing then.
Keep moving on that project, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Along the river.
All right. In that case, we are
By
done
the
with
bridge.
community reports. On to old business.
I don't know if that's already.
We have a dog control agreement.
How about dogs?
All about the dogs. That's where you finish that one.
I have money for you. For Greenway.
Oh, I got 2 minutes. So we have a resolution here authorizing contracts for dog control services. Okay. And
I don't
think
know.
we have something for you to sign, so we can approve this.
Dog park?
So, in a sense, this would actually give a contract to the dog control services we normally have.
Correct.
And if I'm correct, we're putting this up for 2 years.
Correct.
And the basic gist of the Village of Hoosick Falls Board of Trustees hereby approves the contract for dog control and shelter services with Animal Safe Home Rehab and Rehabilitation LLC on the terms and conditions as set forth in Schedule A here too, and further hereby authorizes the mayor to execute such contract on behalf of the Village of Hoosick Falls. Basically, put on paper what we've already done.
Yes, and this is a requirement under the Ag and Markets Law
Mm-hmm.
for a dog control officer, and they need a written contract for those services, and this provides that.
And you're okay with all this, Andy?
I did go through it and made some amendments to it
Okay.
to, I think, comply with the holding periods and redemption periods of the Ag and Markets Law, and that's been reviewed and acceptable to the contractor.
Okay.
And I have added,
Yeah.
and I've added the 2-year terms to the agreement.
Okay.
Where is their shelter?
It's in Castellino.
Oh, no.
Yes. Castellino, yeah, it is.
Right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's number 6.
Where's the coffee?
Castellino is in between here and Salem. On Route 22, yeah, you take Castellino Lake.
Okay.
Before you get to Salem, you turn left, get the track.
Have to say it a little
And
bit.
Jim's lunch is where you use it.
All right. I don't need a motion, we just vote on this, is that correct? This is the
No,
resolution?
if someone introduces it, and
I'll make the
we
motion.
second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Bobby and Ben. Any further discussion on this? Roll call vote, please.
The only question,
Oh, no.
did I see somewhere in here regarding cats? Or was that the initial correspondence we had from
Well, that
them?
would be interesting.
Well,
I
I'm-
think this is limited to dog control.
No, I thought it was,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I remembered reading something about cats, but I wanted to make sure of that, but it's not in there, that's all. Because I know we don't have any cat enforcement, I want to make sure,
Absolutely
okay. I wish we did have cat enforcement.
If we did, my porch would smell a lot better.
Have you been to Fisk Street lately?
They're everywhere.
Oh, go to
I
Fisk
need to.
Street. There's about
Yeah,
50 of
I
them
don't see
there.
it either, I just wanted to make sure, because I did
Okay.
see.
Yeah, I went through this, I didn't.
Okay.
that,
Okay.
All right. In that case, roll call vote, please.
Vanessa? Yes. Craig?
Yes.
Brian?
Only if it includes cats, yes.
Bobby Ryan?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm looking for a motion to appoint Jerry McCullough Jr. as Community Service Director again. I forgot to do this, get this in the organizational meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Brian, Ben second. Any discussion on this? Very grateful for what he does. I
Did a
actually
great
saw him,
job.
Yeah.
at the- I think I saw him recently, within a week ago, at the Hoosick Falls Fire Department. Doing some community service there. Anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay. Sewer projects. We have a lot of updates on this. The project was begun in 2015, and its brainchild and the estimate for this ended up being around 3.7 million. The state came back with funding of a quarter of the project, about sometime last year, sometime in 2017, or early or late.
The recollection is later 16.
That may make sense, okay. Sometime. This was held up before I became mayor in easement land, which we pursued all except one, the final one we haven't heard on yet.
Still pending with the court.
Okay, so pending. But we got to the point where we put it out for bid. The bids came back a lot higher than we had expected. I want to say they came back at like 5.2. Noticeably higher. We've had a lot of discussions with MRB about this, and we looked at the estimate of what it would be added onto residents in terms of how this bond would be paid for, which wouldn't start, assuming we started the project now, it wouldn't come on until probably 2019, but the original scope estimated about $100 to $110 annually, which divided among the 3 bills would be about a $33 to $40 bill. This made it much higher. There's a lot that has to be done. The main bulk of this work is a new force main, which would, if I'm correct, and Craig, I know you were in on these, and Kevin, you were in on these as well, we would no longer be using the River Road pump station, which I think is old and has been having problems with keeping afloat. Probably that's the wrong word, but it would set up a new force main along the greenway in a sense, so wrapping along the river and straight up to the wastewater treatment plant. This is because a lot of the infrastructure in this area where the current force main is old and questionable. And there's no dispute that we need to have this work done, but we have some serious concern about the amount of this bid that has come back. Originally, we were thinking of approving our stuff in the bid at this meeting, but I think after some conversations internally and with them, with Andy, we are looking at the prospect of putting it back out for bid. That would slow the process down, but we only had 3 companies return the bid in the 5.2 or whatever it was the lowest of the 3 bids. Besides the force main, there'd be a pump station on Lyman Street, which we've already acquired that property from the county, and a couple other Band-Aids, but really important Band-Aids for things that we know need to get worked. There's a lot of questions about putting out for bid. Are we really going to get a discount? If we break it up instead of one thing into smaller bits, will that help? Does that mean we'll get a better price, or because there's more competition? Or does it mean we'll not get a better price because that means one company can do the whole thing and then discount? So we don't know, but we're getting ready to have another couple of conversations with MRB and discuss this. But that's the word. Do you guys have any questions on this?
I do.
Yeah, fire away.
You said initially we had a cost of 3.7 million and the state funding was 900K.
Yeah, the estimate for 3.7 was in 2015.
Right, okay.
The 900 something K brought it down to like 2.8 or
2.8, okay.
About that.
That came after, though.
That
right?
came after.
That wasn't part of the original.
That wasn't
The
part of the
900,000
Well,
came
right,
after.
well, my next question is, so now we have a new estimate of the property, 5 million. Is the state gonna increase their ante?
MRB has looked into that, and the basic gist is no.
And the state is the one that's mandating we do this, correct?
Yes, it started out as a DEC
Mandate, right?
enforcement matter.
So why don't they pay for it?
Because
Because there's no way our residents can afford an increase of, you keep adding on and adding on. I mean, enough's enough, we just can't keep throwing bills at them that they expect to pay quarterly or every third. You know,
And not only that, we're having less users. If we tear down houses on Hall Street, there'll be less users.
And less tax base.
And less tax base.
Can you apply for more grants? Because I'm remembering, didn't he just announce more water infrastructure grant like 2-3 weeks ago?
I think that's incoming, right? Not outgoing.
I feel like, and Dave, you would know the grant season on this. I feel like those will be
It just
announced.
opened, it was like 45 million.
Yeah.
They open sometime around this season or June, and then they close around September.
Yeah.
And then they get announced. It depends on whether it's election year or not.
But, so you could apply for more, I mean, is that possible?
I don't know, that's a conversation we have to have.
We definitely have
Okay,
something
was this
from,
a Grant Water Infrastructure Improvement Act?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I work in the drinking water part, not the wastewater part, but, there is a new round coming soon, has not been announced yet. We're expecting it to be announced soon, there's drinking water money, there's more cleaner wastewater money.
Okay.
I don't know if EFC handles the wastewater, I don't know if they'll, accept an application for more money, or I don't know how they'll handle it, but
No, that's
there is another
Get
round
that
coming.
grant.
Yeah, that's good to know because that can help us have these discussions and figure out what is our next sort of step forward. But, I
Also
think,
like a struggling communities
Well, it's
grant
like
as well, because I remember we were talking about it for Petersburg.
for environmental justice, community, and tax.
if you guys find those grants,
Just
shoot me a Facebook
Because
message.
I sent it, or did I send it? I sent you.
Yeah, I got it.
So
Shoot it to me
I'll
again.
read your mail.
Shoot it to me again.
I'll find it again.
I think there's one thing that's and I'm gonna not use real numbers here, so don't hold me to the actual numbers, but the original project, my understanding, was budgeted at 3.7 million. And that was calculated at the time to be approximately an impact of $100 per year per user. And then nothing happened after, well, a lot of things happened after 2015, but nothing happened with this after 2015 because of all the other issues. But my understanding is that the new quotes came in. They came in at $5 million. Meanwhile, we received grant money of $900,000, taking it back down to 4.2 million versus 3.7 million. Which, the 3.7 million was approximately $100 per user. The new bill, so I get it, that's a lot of money, but that was approved back in 2015. The new cost is $120 per user. So it didn't double, it didn't go up.
Right.
I mean, the incremental change is not that large per user from the amount of the money went up. I get that the initial approval of all the money is a big increase, but the actual change from 2015 when it was approved to now, per person, per bill is
$16.
is not. So I just want to put that out there that it's not hundreds of dollars more than it would have been in 2015. It's $16 per household more. So
In
just
a
to,
sense,
Well, then you
it's
got-
about 15 or 60% higher than what it's going to be. Which, if you look at it just like that, it's not a big deal. But I think back in 2015, before all the PFOA stuff broke, it was just like, okay, this is the thing that we got to take care of. But now, since so much has changed in the community, I think it becomes another like, oh, wait a minute. We're already having struggles in various aspects, and then to throw another bill, which again, this was moved on 3 years ago. It was approved 3 years ago. It's not a surprise in the sense that this is something that hasn't been there. It's been there. It's been out. It's been present for 3 years. The surprise is that the whole community has changed over the past couple of years, and we're still trying to get our feedback under us.
right, and I think the whole community has forgotten about the what was approved in 2015.
Oh, sure.
Nobody.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody except maybe one person sitting here might remember what it was in 2015, right? I mean, I trust your memory.
I mean, some people's taxes in the community are gonna be going up because
A
of
lot.
revale,
Yeah.
and just on top of the PFOA and everything else, so floods, it's a, one thing on top of another.
And just to go with that too, I mean, we are dealing with 20 plus years, 30 years of deferred maintenance that was deferred for the sake of not wanting to spend money when the village maybe had some to spend, and now we're always playing catch up. So I think this is also where we're always working, these things come up with our infrastructure, and you even mentioned houses coming off tax rolls. I think we need to really start as a board figuring out how do we look ahead of, one, taking care of these problems, and two, actually letting go of some of the inventory we have without it affecting future work on projects, because some of the houses that we have too many of, look what they turn into. So I think we really need to take a serious look at what is our real game plan here financially to make sure it's not deferred maintenance, but also planning to have less inventory of housing.
And I got to meet with Mark, as town supervisor, and a couple officials from the school, Pat Daly, and one of the parent writers that they used. We started to eye some things as a full, larger contingent, getting organized and moving us and things like that. And one of the things we talked about was trying to find a way to refab some of these old houses that are sitting there with nothing. And if there's a way we could get grant funding, as an example, to get some students and some adults working together to get houses.
Like a habitat.
Something like that.
Something
Sort
like
of.
that, but something that could also, you know, from the school's perspective, involve the teachers and students there, to give them experience in doing something like this. And it goes back to the village and the town by getting the towns
Build
back.
trade skills.
Yeah, on the roll, so everything that happened isn't felt so strongly. And that's something that we're just starting to look at and sort of move on, because right now we're still stuck on, 6 months to a year of looking ahead to see what we can get figured out with all the stuff that we've been going through. But we also need to be thinking more long-term than that.
And we also, I mean, you can look at other places that have faced much worse troubles than we, and bigger places such as Detroit, where they've taken houses and they've done a similar program, but they've given them to writers and artists with the agreement they'll pay the taxes and insurance on it as long as they stay there, and they're bringing people, residents there that are contributing, that are helping the communities grow in different neighborhoods, and that program is very successful. So things like that, we really should start looking at outside of the box to solve some of these problems and catch up on our
So that was a little bit of a tangent, but that's sort of the sewer project update. As we get any other thoughts or comments on that? I'd be glad to have Kevin and Craig involved in all this stuff as we go through for the trustees overseeing the wastewater. We're going to keep having you guys involved. So thank you. And that actually kind of shifts over into our new business. First thing is code compliance issues and options for unsafe buildings. There's probably two particular scenarios I'm thinking of that we've been dealing with for completely different reasons. But the question has come up. When we have a situation where someone's out of compliance, has gone to court, and that hasn't produced anything, what are our options as a village for property that we know is unsafe that we don't own? So, Andy, can you give us a little bit of an update and synopsis on how this all works and what our options are going forward? Oh,
He's counting.
This is guy.
I've never seen that from Andy before.
He was counting to 10.
I'm a musician. I
Taking
only
a
count
breath.
to 4 and start over, so.
Thank you. You can have.
If there's enough.
Oh, there's plenty here. Yeah? One for you.
One for you too.
You count. You matter.
Yep. So we won't talk about any particular pending code enforcement matter, but objectively, if there is a property that is not in compliance and some code enforcement case has been brought, what happens is the property owner will get notice of that appearance date, will get served with a citation and a sentence, and will come before the village courts. And the goal, as Mark said earlier, is compliance. We get them in front of the court. Mark has done a lot before it gets to court to try to get the properties into compliance. That's really the goal of the department. But if that fails, then we bring them into village court. And we have been going through a lot of the backlog of cases and brought new cases, and by and large, a lot of them have been addressed. What we didn't say earlier, is what the board should know, is the village has now been insisting that if a code enforcement case is required to be brought in court, that there will be a fine imposed. There is cost to the village in coming into court and enforcing the code compliance properties. The analogy I used with the court, and certainly Mark and I have been proposing that in court, is when someone gets a traffic ticket, it's presumed that even if there's a plea entered, there'll be a surcharge and maybe even a minimal fine. Well, these cases are very similar. There are expenses in compliance in bringing matters into court. So we have been requiring, if the property owners are cooperative with Mark's office and gets the matters addressed, the minimum fine, and if we get less than cooperation with the property owners, then the fines go up. And so we have been trying to do that. If there's a particular property owner that is brought before the court, but then does not further appear, what happens in these cases is there's a criminal component to this. These are treated as criminal violations. A plea is entered by the property owner, and as in any criminal matter, if it's a more serious matter, then before that particular defendant is released, there's a bail requirement. Well, obviously, we don't get to that point here on code compliance cases, so the property owner has entered a plea, and we either resolve the case thereafter, or the case actually is tried in village court, and a penalty can be imposed. The problem that we faced with some properties is after the plea has been entered, the property owner disappears. And there's a process there where the village court can issue what's called a bench warrant, which is served through the village police department to require their appearance in village court. But if the person is actually gone from the jurisdiction and is either out of the country or in another state, then what happens to the, not just the pending code compliance case, which there's no defendants to prosecute at that point, but the code compliance issues remain with the properties, and sometimes these properties can get into significant disrepair. So, what are the options? The village did, and this is not unusual, many municipalities have these options. The village did adopt a local law in 2008, and this is the local law dealing with repair or removal of unsafe buildings or structures. If you get to a point where a building becomes uninhabitable or becomes unsafe and poses a public threat, this is the process that the village has the option of following. In general, what's required is the building department to get access to the property to conduct an inspection, make a determination whether at a minimum repairs are required, or at most that the building has to come down because it is structurally unsound. The building department can be supported by an engineer. If the property does need demolition, it's often recommended that an engineer accompany the building department so that technical records created that can be enforced. A notice is sent to the property owner, either sent by registered mail or served personally. Now, again, there's the problem of what happens if the property owner is no longer around. There's a provision that you use the last known address off the last assessment roll, you send it by registered mail, that complies with the notice requirement. The village board then holds a public hearing.
5 feet.
And, correct, and you hear anyone that wants to come in and say, no, you're going too far, the building doesn't need to be come down, it can be repaired, it can be stabilized, or quite frankly, you've determined that, no, it does need to come down, but you gather all those comments, you hear the building department, you take a look at the record, and then you determine what you want to do. An order can be issued requiring repair, requiring stabilization, or requiring demolition. And then you send that order to the property owner, and they have a certain period of time in which to complete that. If the property owner fails to do that, the village is empowered to do the work. Okay? That does require an upfront capital investment by the village. You have to come up with the funds to get that work done. The mayor and I are going through demolition estimates on properties now in connection with the Woodsbrook project. This is not inexpensive for Maine to take a building down. But if it does pose a public safety issue, then there may be no option for the village than to do that. The local law then has a process, and again, this is fairly standard throughout New York, where all the costs associated with that process, everything including my time, legal fees, title search fees, engineering fees, actual repair, stabilization, and demolition costs, are all accounted for and chargeable back to the property owner. If the property owner fails to pay for that, it is then re-levied against the property, and it goes through the tax re-levy process. Ultimately, how these work, and there's a process, there's a time period that you can imagine. It will be an unpaid tax that's addressed by the county, and it goes on the county.
And the county will make us whole.
That's correct.
A long ways away.
Oh, yeah, I understand it's a long way.
So we just need the money up front to do the work,
Yes.
and then we have to wait
And you have to
to
wait.
get it back, which is a couple years.
You presume in these cases that the property owner is not going to pay the village. If if they do pay it, that's wonderful, then you're immediately reimbursed. If the property owner has the money to do it, they're likely to do it in the first instance. Then if it's failed to be paid, then it is re-levied, it's a repaid tax, it goes to the county, and that just takes a period of time. You are ultimately made whole, but there is a period of time, so there's an upfront capital cost to the village to address these.
What if we don't get permission to go on site and do inspection?
The permitting process, it is private property. The building department does not have the legal authority just to go onto the property without the owner's consent.
Unless it's imminent danger.
Yes, if it's an emergency or imminent danger, then he has every legal right to go on the property. Absent that, you do need consent of the property owner.
Unless it's a rental property, correct?
If there's someone on the property that invites you on, a renter does have a certain property interest,
Yeah.
tenant, they can invite you on. But presume for the moment that it's a vacant property in disrepair, the owner is gone, how do you get on to that? There's a process where we can apply to the village court for what's called an administrative inspection warrant. The village court has the authority to issue that, and it allows Mark the legal authority to get on the property with the village police department, execute the inspection warrant, and that's how you get on the property. But there's a process to do that as well.
Or if there's a fire, broken pipe.
Well, then that creates the
An
emergency
emergency,
situation,
they goes
and you
in
get
as
on the
well,
property.
correct, yeah.
So that's how other municipalities address it. It's a process that takes a little time. Okay, there's a procedure to go through. These are private property rights we're dealing with. So there are due process rights that you have to step through. There's that notice provision, public hearing provision, an opportunity for them to cure. And once you go through all of that, then the village is allowed to do the work. You have to have the upfront capital to get that work done, ultimately reimbursed through the tax levy process.
Do you have any questions on the process? Again, not talking specific cases.
When can we start?
When we find our pile of money.
Yeah, it's, you can, quite frankly, at any time that you can start. It is a process that will take several, unfortunately, months.
I mean, it has to get to the point where court happens, and then owners have to not show up to court.
Generally, you try to get these done through the court process, but if owners are gone and they're nowhere to be found and they're not accounting for maintenance of their property, you circulate an article, you go around to other municipalities and you'll see the red placard with the X on it. That's a building that's been determined to be unsafe, uninhabitable, and ultimately needs to be demolished. The reason you have a long period of time with those placards on is it's a process. It can be expensive. Okay? So you can start anytime.
What kids are?
Well, but effectively, there's nothing you can do in terms of the property. And if this defendant, it's like someone, quote, jumping bail. You know, they're gone.
Yeah, and you can
You
take
can't
the
get hold of
house,
them.
you can have it.
Is
We
there any
still have to
liability?
get rid of it.
Exactly right.
We still have to pay to take it down.
Yeah.
Is there any liability for the village, say there's all kinds of antiques or anything inside the building?
That's addressed in your local law. If you go to section 10, administrative liability, so no officer, agent, or employee of the village shall render himself or herself personally liable for any damages that may accrue to persons or property as a result of any act required hereunder. So that's been addressed. If there's antiques, if there's valuables in the structure, that's really addressed through the notice provision that you've given them, the opportunity to be heard in front of the board. They've had every due process opportunity to say, stop, I don't think structure should come down, or I need an opportunity to get in there and get these act reports taken down. So
In the case of that value, if there's valuable property, does that mean if they never come back for it, then the village owner should have it?
And we can auction it, probably, right?
no,
No,
that's
no,
no,
you're
no,
destroying
that's,
No, like,
And then we would have to stay in there and be demolished.
Well, yeah, and I don't think we wanna go
I mean,
sorting through people's.
I would not recommend doing that. Number one, if the structure is to the point where it's unsound, it's unstable, you don't want people in there walking around, that's a safety issue.
You're lucky to pull the garbage.
Yeah.
Oil.
Andy, are you happy with
Yeah,
this
move
law?
away from it.
Are there any changes we should look at to clarify, strengthen, or do you think this was done well?
Again, it's fairly standard.
Yeah.
If there's one provision that could be beefed up a bit, it's, if you go to page 3, section 5F, this is talking about
Our costs?
costs being, shall be assessed against the land. That section, that's adequate. It could be beefed up to list out all the costs, including but not limited to legal fees, engineering fees, title searches, so that everyone is on notice, all of these costs would be included.
I mean, I'd like to, if that's where you think we should beef that up, and just put it out there that we probably should look at amending this law.
It's not that you can't act right now, you
Right,
can.
but just
This
for
could be
future to
amended
make it stronger with the amendment.
Would that require like a local law, adjusting this local law?
Would it require a public
And a
hearing?
public hearing.
Oh, God, anytime you change the
Well,
law,
we know how to do that.
But there's no reason not
Yeah, we're good
to
at that.
use the law as
That's
written today.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Very, very good. All right, we have a resolution in front of us authorizing the issuance of a callable bond anticipation notes ban in the amount of $52,142, dated May 8th, 2018, to refinance the previous callable serial bond in the amount of $62,571, dated May 10th, 2017, for the purpose of water and sewer repairs and purchase of this vehicle. This is actually the side of the other parts of this. This is something that we sort of do, as Denise explained to you, on an annual basis. Basically, switching this over to a new one.
Right, we initially took it back in, I think, 14, it was 185,000 initially for the Rogers Avenue, River Road, and a police car. And every year, we can renew bands, 7 years, I believe, and then 16 back to 5, actually. We have 3 more years left to pay this band down. And the principal payment, this one that happens to be in May, and you renew the band until
So we're just updating this, we're not purchasing a new police
No,
car.
we're just paying down.
Paying down on
Paying down the
existing debt.
principal about 10,500.
And this has all been in the budget.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Where is that? Was that resolution? What other resolution?
First paragraph is the last signature.
The Village of Hoosick Falls Municipality, that one, State of New York, hereby acknowledges itself and for value received promises to pay the bearer of the callable note the sum of $52,142 on May 10th, 2019.
Nope,
Nope, not
that's
that
the
one.
note itself.
Yeah.
The
Third page is
resolution,
the resolution.
just the top paragraph on the
Sorry,
resolution.
thank you. Yeah, okay. A resolution authorizing the issuance of callable bond anticipation note in the amount of $52,140 dated May 8th, 2018, to refinance previous callable serial bond in the amount of $62,571 dated May 10th, 2017, for the purpose of water and sewer repairs and purchase of police car. I don't need to read anything else, correct? So am I looking for a motion to introduce this resolution?
Motion?
Second.
And second?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Any further discussion on this? Does this require a roll call vote?
You know what to do it, I don't see it on here, but I would suggest.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay,
We're good at that, too.
Craig,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you. Passes. That is the, that is it. Oh yeah, you have something to sign on
He
this.
just did.
Oh, you guys.
Technically did it before the resolution.
Don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody.
It's being recorded.
Retroactive.
30
All right.
seconds.
I'm looking for a motion to adjust the April 2018 water and sewer usage for Bonnie Bennett, residents at 3 Hall Street. The meter has not read for 3 cycles and was estimated. Jim took the read on the 4th of May, confirmed no usage. The request is, and Jim says it makes sense to waive the $115.85 of water and also the $119.30 of the sewer. This is the actual bill. It would drop it from a total of $418 down to $183, which would basically be the water box sewer bonds.
And trash.
Is the house not occupied?
This is one of the ones that had
Severe water
severe
damage on
flood
Hall
damage, and
Street.
they've worked on a kitchen, but they have not had any.
Her husband, he passed away.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Her
so
husband passed
also
away, yeah.
recently passed away too.
Yep.
Her husband.
Yeah, Tony passed away about a month and a half.
And I believe she's living in another property they own anyhow. Yes, in Estherbrook.
Yeah.
So with all that going on for the poor lady, I'd say motion.
Second.
Brian, Craig, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries. The last item, Woodsbrook. We put out the RFQ for the Woodsbrook, which is the $900,000 or $920, whatever it was, project with the town related to making some fixes up higher so the flow is more control coming into the village. We got one response from B&L, of course. Now the issue is that we heard from B&L's Don Fletcher, who is the senior vice president. There's a situation in the city of Mechanicville that an RFQ was put out and only one person responded. And CDBG told them that they had to re-advertise for consultant services and place several stipulations on it. So what they're recommending is, even though we did the process the right way, to not approve this tonight, and we're going to have further discussions on why this has to change, but because CDBG has already had a situation where only one RFQ came back, and they had problems with that, we don't want to create a similar situation, so we're going to try to figure that out and get that on.
So table it for this, for now.
You have to do a motion.
Okay.
Do you have to do a motion?
No.
No.
Okay, so it is tabled. And unless you guys have anything else, I would like to look for motion to break into executive session, to discuss current pending or possible litigation with no business to be had afterwards.
Motion.
Ben, thank you. Ben, I know you did a
You're
great
welcome.
job.
Second.
Vanessa.
Because I should be in bed in
All in
30
favor?
minutes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now going to executive session with no other business at 8:07. Thank you all.
Rob, will we move on that?